Welcome back to At Your Peak, 6 to 9 minutes each day, Monday through Friday. We come at you with the fundamentals that help us to learn to reign in life in Christ. And specifically this week, talking about fundamental leadership. And really want to talk about how as leaders, yesterday I hit on this principle of blowing the lid off of our thinking as we blaze trails that leaders need to pioneer at times and step into new terrain that God is summoning us to. And today I want to drive some more on that thought and pull from a biblical character named Nehemiah, who was definitely an agent of change. See, Nehemiah, he was a cupbearer, and you can read this in the book of Nehemiah in the Bible, but he was a cupbearer. And so he had to taste all the stuff for the king. If it was poisoned, then he would die. So he had a risky job. But part of what his goal was to convince the king to go back to his homeland. He was the people of God, the children of Israel, to go back to Jerusalem and to rebuild the walls of the city which were broken down. And many of you know this story, but because of the favor on his life, because he learned how to lead up. Leading up is simply, as a leader, you're learning how to lead up to a leader who is above you in authority. He learned how to serve well and to bring positive suggestions for change as an agent of change. Well, this king had Nehemiah's respect. And so he said, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fund you and resource your vision to go back and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, which is awesome. But how many know every vision you have as an agent of change will be challenged? And so we see in Nehemiah 2, verse 20, Nehemiah saying something very profound. He says, the God of heaven himself will prosper us. Love this mindset. Therefore, we, his servants, we will arise and build. So Nehemiah's got the vision. He knows where he's going. He knows what he wants to do. And it's going to be all peaches and herbs after that, right? Wrong. Wrong. Every time as an agent of change, you go after a God-sized vision, you will have devil-sized opposition. And I say devil-sized because I've heard this phrase before, and it's always bugged me. It's this thing of greater the level, greater the devil. I don't like that phrase. I like God-sized vision, devil-sized opposition. You know why? Because the devil was defeated at the cross 2,000 years ago. I'm not going to say greater the level, greater the devil. No, get the heck out of my way. I've got a vision to do with God here. I'm on a mission from God. Little Blues Brothers, for those of you who are back in the day. All of you Gen Zers and millennials are like, what? Who? Blues what? Yeah, we're on a mission from God. If I had my sunglasses, you would know. You'd get that reference. Just Google Blues Brothers, but I digress. Nehemiah 4. Here come the critics. And this is going to happen in anything that you do that's worthwhile doing. Devil-sized opposition. Here we go. Now it happened when Sanballat, a critic, Tobiah, a critic, the Arabs, the Ammonites, the Ashdodites, any of the ites that you hear a lot of times in the Old Testament were against a move of God. Well, they heard that the walls of Jerusalem were being restored and the gaps were beginning to be closed, and they became very angry. That's what always happens when you make progress. And all of them conspired together to come and attack Jerusalem and create confusion, which is exactly what happens when a leader is clear. If you have a clear vision and you know what you're doing, of course there's going to be somebody who wants to get everybody confused so they stop building and come off the wall. So here's what's happening. Verse 9. Nevertheless, Nehemiah goes, nevertheless, we made our prayer to God, and because of them, we set a watch against them day and night. And then Judah said, the strength of the laborers is following, and there's so much rubbish that we can't build the wall. All right. I think some of you are getting a hold of this picture here. Anytime you're in the midst of a fight, there's an opportunity for discouragement. But if your vision's clear, know that confusion is lurking. But remember, greater the level, greater not the devil, greater the opportunity. Nehemiah 4, verse 14. I looked at them over and rose up and said to the nobles, and this is Nehemiah talking, the officials and the other people, do not be afraid of the enemy. Earnestly remember the Lord and imprint him on your minds. Great and terrible, and take from him courage to fight. Have courage, gang. Your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. And then I move to verse 15 of chapter 6. So the wall was finished on the 25th day of Elul in 52 days. 52 days. Decades of sitting there and nothing happening. No momentum. No fresh vision. One guy on a mission from God who stood against confusion, was on the wall on purpose, without distraction, not listening to people to come down off the wall, kept building, kept motivating, and instead of making excuses, he made progress. And they got what took decades, took 7 decades of sitting there. They got done in 52 days. 52 days. And it happened when all of the enemies heard of it and all the nations around us saw this incredible thing. They were disheartened in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was done by our God. Wow. 3 reactions to change. The critics. They will always be the loudest in the room. And the loudest boos always come from the cheapest seats. Just because they're the loudest, they're not necessarily the most important voices. Then there's the bystanders. They're just kind of neutral for now. It seems okay. Nehemiah seems like a good guy. I might hang out here and I might do a little bit of work. I like the fact that he's doing most of it. Let him be more of a maker. I'll be a taker, but I'll stay here for now. I'm just kind of neutral. I'm like Switzerland. And then there are the advocates. That's your core leader. They are on fire, on mission. They are raging and roaring and ready to go. They're singing Journey, don't stop believing, hold on to your dreams. Anyway, I'm not a singer, I'm a preacher. The point is, they're the get her done people, and they move the needle. So, I don't know. It's what the why does to these reactions. Well, it disarms the critics. When you have a clear why, it disarms the critics. Clearly presented why will often disarm the critics. They may even convert to believers. Believe it or not, I've seen that. Some of my critics have, very few of them. By the way, we do have them. But occasionally, I have had people show up and say, you know what? I was wrong. I know that's rare, but it was wrong. And part of that is because I've had to go and admit to others, you know what? Maybe I've been a little critical of this person or this situation, and I was wrong. I think we've all been there. Probably, if we're all honest, we've all been a critic at some point. But the why, here's the why. It educates the bystanders. They might move the mission forward. I see why this difficulty is here, and it leads to something better. And then there's your advocates, your why advocates. You are the needle movers. Your why empowers the advocates, the language, the data, and the stats to come alongside and lead others through the struggle. That's what Nehemiah did. So here's a question to ponder. What part of Nehemiah's journey most currently reflects yours? And finally, what is the Lord asking you to do about it? Something to think about. We'll see you tomorrow.